my number one. I'm just a life-size lottery ticket in the hand of the one. The stress out, freak out's gone since we packed up the car. Now I'm standing in a circle, all your sad faces crowding the yard.
There has to be a million different ways that stories emerge from even the most mundane beginnings. Now, I won't pretend that every film that we make here is some kind of amazing story. The reality is that clients have products that they have to sell, and deadlines and limitations, and things just fall through the cracks. But I believe that the persistence of trying to make something of value over and over and over again, that eventually wins. Today's episode is mostly about editing 360 monoscopic videos inside of Premiere. I'll show you how to take footage from Fusion, bring it into Premiere, edit, color it, and export it for distribution. But I want to talk about something that we mentioned in episode 1. These tools are amazing because they open up this whole new world of opportunity for anybody to edit 360 videos and tell new stories that haven't been seen from these perspectives. I think that's really exciting. All right, let's get to it. All right, so now that our files are ready to go, we can actually take that inside of Premiere here and we can start to play around with it. So let's take a look at what we have. What I've actually got here is my project from another event that I recorded for another car dealership. So what it can do is actually go between this, what's called an equirectangular timeline for me here, where I can see the whole video just sort of laid out flat. Or what I can do is I can toggle and see the VR display. So this is a pet wellness, and outside they were doing some adoption clinic stuff. You can see they've got some pet beds here. As I scroll through, you'll see that there's a couple other scenes that come up. And I've just basically taken and nested those clips inside of their own sequence so that I can color it after the fact. That aside, what I want to do is actually see what's inside of there. Okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 clips that I've used. Now, one of the things in doing 360 videos or VR videos is that you want to try to figure out, okay, what's the story that I can tell? If you were to just set up one camera, just let it run, and just that one clip, export out, I'm sure there's a purpose behind that. But this is still storytelling. You still want to take somebody through a journey, and that's something that I look to do when I make 360 videos, is to try to find a way to make logical moves from point A to point B, all the way through to a finish. And when I'm doing events like this, I want to make sure that somebody that comes in that wasn't at the event has a chance to feel like they themselves have walked through it. Often I'll even try to follow some kind of action. So I'll look for a portion of the clip where somebody walked from one side, and as they're moving into the building, we then come into the building and we see people kind of walking in the door and moving through, even if it's not the same ones. That way you give some sense for movement and like you're following with some people through the event. After that, then you just look for when's the most action taking place, something that really conveys what the story is trying to tell. In this case, in the event, that there is, activity, there's people, there are, treats, and here, this is a ball pit for the dogs. So you can actually see that, the dogs go into this ball pit, have a good time in there, and get some treats. We ended with the Subaru building outside, so it's as if we've started right here at the road with the dog show, or pet adoption, I mean, have come to where some of that adoption actually was taking place. And then we were able to kind of move our way through the small events and wind up once again outside as we kind of close off. So it's pretty simple. Here are some of my 360 clips. All you have to do is you pull it up just like any normal video would be. Then you can in and out it. So if I want to go in and out right there, take the video or both timeline into my timeline, and there it is. We are set up. We are ready to go. if you want to make an edit into it, you've actually got drivers that are installed with Fusion right here. I can just go Pro. I think it'll come up, or just go VR. All right, so you've got immersive VR here, and what you want to do is actually go to VR Rotate Sphere. So if I take and drag VR Rotate Sphere on, and then go to my effects panel, I'm going to see where all of those options are to rotate everything around, just like I had inside of Fusion Studio. Best way to see this is actually, I think, in the equirectangular mode. So you can go ahead and adjust your main center of focus there. So this is going to be your center point right in the center there. I wanted it to be the adoption tent to make sure that people saw that before anything else. From there, they can actually go around and they can look and see that there's some cars and there's the dealership signage is all right there. They can get a little bit more information from it. But the center point, the focus of that action, I wanted to be right here as people are walking around the tent to go inside, and we follow the action to go right in there with them. Now, the reason I came and I did here in this final sequence, the nested and doubled layers like that, was actually do a little bit of color. So, just like your standard 2D video clips, you can also do all of your color correction and everything right inside of Premiere here, which is super awesome. And I just do this for a little bit of a nice effect that I like to do. I add the layer, I make it a soft light, and then add a blur to it, so it gives it a little bit of a, not an overwhelming, but a little glowing, just kind of makes it feel a little bit poppier in some instances. So it gives it a little bit of a color pop. It diffuses that white, lack of information in the windows, basically, and just softens up skin tones a little bit. That's neither the point. Basically, you can just come right in here and you can go ahead and, I think I may have done some work here. Yeah, you can just see, so a little bit of color work. I needed to bring up the exposure a little bit, bring up the saturation a little bit from those flatter images. So that's exactly what I've done here. So all that said, you can make all the adjustments you'd like to. I made one final layer adjustment there, and this instance, I believe I actually even removed the, what did I change? I can't even remember what it is. There was something that had to be changed here. Oh, okay, I see it. So there was, my poll right here. So this is something that you want to consider too. There's programs that you can actually unwrap these totally differently inside of After Effects if you want to remove your tripod, which I recommend doing. I just didn't do it in this instance yet. But this felt like, quite a bit of an eyesore. But I could actually handle that pretty easily on my own. So all I did was I took and I duplicated the layer and then moved the, a part of what I wanted to see here. So let's say I can probably just, get rid of my mask. All I did was move that over to a space where you can see, it doesn't have the pole in it anymore. Use that concrete and feathered it out a little bit, make sure it matched up just a little bit. And in the end, you honestly, you can't really tell what's going on there, that there's anything there, since nothing crosses that field of view. You can see the blur just a little bit right there. But otherwise, I don't know, it handled it pretty good. So it depends on what you need, whatever your use is. If you want it to be quick and dirty, or if you want to really spend a lot of time and make sure that it, is perfect. Again, just whatever you need to do with it. So once all that is set to go, you can take your final timeline. You can add any graphics that you'd like to. We can talk about that later inside of After Effects, how to work with VR graphics. And this is just a 2D graphic turned into a 3D comp. That's all it is. So you'll see that this is, just kind of like a box, basically. And once all that's done, you can take and real basic, Command M for me on Mac to pull up my export options here. And you'll notice at the bottom of your video settings is actually a little toggle here for video is VR. You want to make sure that is set to on, and that anything that's relevant for your information is set here. The frame layout, I'm actually monoscopic. That means that this is not like a 3D effect, visual effect, that would be stereoscopic, like you would, when you put 3D glasses on a theater or something like that. So I'm monoscopic. The only VR experience about it is just that it's a spherical world. So that's set. That's good to go. Make sure your settings are right as well. I went ahead and just did YouTube for 4K to make sure that I can get that into YouTube, and then you can export separately for Facebook as well, which is going to be at 720p instead. And then from there, it's pretty simple. You take that final file, you bring it into whatever, wherever you're going to share it, basically, that will handle a 360 video, and upload it, and everything else handles it just fine. Again, like what I love about where the technology is right now, I obviously am like stuttering around my words on this, and not doing a very good job explaining it sometimes, but it doesn't matter because it's so user friendly. What that means to me, when it doesn't have to be like, some techie's world to figure out how things are working with it, is that the technology gets out of the way at that point. It allows you to just create and tell the story that you want to tell. And that's, I think, the most important thing when you're using any of these tools, is to make sure that whatever you are using and however the workflow is working, that it's not about the process, that it's about that story that you can do in the end. I'm excited to see what can be done with it. We'll get into some compositing later in the next episode. Thanks for sticking around. We'll see you then. Sorry, it's been a while since I've watched that. Are you excited? Are you ready to get out there and film something in a new way nobody's ever seen before? To take on new challenges and show people a whole new world. A whole new world. A new fan. If you came to the series late, consider checking out the first 2 episodes. And don't miss out on future episodes where I'll cover camera gear, the production process, workflows, storytelling, and try to have some fun while doing it. Because if I don't, nobody is. If you do want to keep up with the channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notifications bell. I'll be posting every week, so that'll help you keep up to date. And time for the credits. There's definitely not any end credit sequences on this one. Wink.